It is 3:55 p.m. Central Standard Time. It is 9:55 p.m. in Benghazi in Cameroon. This afternoon, I want to just spend about 5 to 10 minutes sharing 5 compelling lessons that I learned from a multi-millionaire presenter this last Friday. Oh my goodness. I wish you were there sitting in that room, filled with almost 20 to 25 people. And then this gentleman, who is a multi-millionaire, really good at his game, stand up and present and make a case for something, a product that is somewhat very complex. But first, let me say, he came across to me as a tour guide. He did not pretend to be a multi-millionaire. He is a multi-millionaire. He did not put on any airs. He did not seem to be special. He did not act like he was better than anyone else. He came across just like one of us. Just a little bit more, slightly better dressed. And yes, with a shirt and tie. Hi, very warm good afternoon to all of you watching. I don't know from which part of the world. If it's late in Cameroon, it's PM. If it's in Singapore, it's early morning. If you're in US, maybe it's late afternoon. But more importantly, what brings us together today, I just want to share with you these 5 important lessons on how to present and persuade without being pushy. Who am I? My name is Gideon Fomukwai. I go by the moniker of Story Warrior. Oh, yes, Story Warrior, because I help business people who are interested in building careers or in building businesses, to persuade by using the power of storytelling. And I often say that I help you to fight your business battles without firing a shot. All you need is your stories to make an emotional connection with someone, to invite them on the journey. And in the course of going on that journey, you frame your issues, you frame the challenges, you frame the solutions through the perspective of a story. And if you do that right, they'll come along with you on that journey. So come with me to Dallas, Texas last Friday. I learned from this gentleman that if you want to present and persuade, number one, oh yes, number one, you should go out there and start by asking guiding questions. What do I mean by guiding questions? Questions that help the audience to frame the issue that you want to talk about. Questions that help them to ask themselves or to put themselves in the shoes of someone who has to make a decision. Let's say you want them to contribute to a charity. One guiding question you can ask them is, do you believe that it is the right thing to contribute to a charity that helps children to get a basic education? And by prompting them to think about a yes or no situation, you are actually beginning to engage them to think about the merits of helping children to get an education. So the first thing I observed that gentleman did was he asked a certain number of questions all throughout his presentation. These were not just random questions, these were guiding questions. Some of them were yes or no questions, but some of them were also questions that opened up their mind with respect to the product that he was presenting. Another guiding question you can ask there is, do you believe the small amount of money you contribute today can open up opportunities for others to become better tomorrow? Are you aware that what you contribute today can help someone profoundly tomorrow? Or What have you done in the last 1 year that could help a child to find their voice in a world that is full of noise, a world that is full of distractions, distortions, omissions, and all kinds of crazy things going on? What have you been able to do to the children around you who are not necessarily your own children to help them to have a better life? Those kind of guiding questions help the audience to begin to realize the importance of what is at stake. The second element, the second way that I saw this gentleman engage with the audience is that he utilized logic. And by logic, I just mean he utilized our understanding of the numbers that are involved in terms of who is helping who. The numbers in terms of who benefits. The numbers in terms of who is getting ahead and who is staying behind. And what that means for your community. And what that means for your own children if they grow up and become successful and yet they live in a world that is half blind. What do they get from that? So the second observation, the second most important thing that I observed that gentleman used in presenting and persuading was the use of logic. Utilize logic, because logic makes sense. Logic can say 1 plus 1 equal to 2. 1 plus 1 equals to 2. And therefore, if I'm contributing $1 and you're contributing $1, then we're giving a chance to some other child who doesn't have the 1 plus 1 in their surrounding to become better. So the second thing was utilize logic. And with respect to logic, you can use numbers, you can use statistics, you can use figures, you can use a variety of things. The third thing that I saw, the third way that I saw this phenomenal multi-million-dollar presenter, what he used was illustrations. Oh my goodness. By illustrations, I mean, yes, he could get down to his computer, seated, and would go through one page to another, opening up, illustrating how to get from page 1 to page 2, and what are the implications of one person contributing, what are the implications of 2 people contributing, what are the implications of 3 people contributing. He was able to illustrate. But you know the one that was really most dramatic to me? He came in with a comb of corn or maize, and he pulled out that comb of corn, and he was using that not to get anybody hungry. Certainly not. He used that comb to demonstrate the power. Yes, I mean the power of understanding the difference between one single grain of corn and maybe 200-300 pieces of corn on a maize comb. And when he brought that in, it demonstrated to me that he has taken the time to think about the concepts, to think about the metaphors, to think about demystifying this topic that was definitely very, very complex, more complex than most of us would admit. And yes, it wasn't about fundraising per se. It was about a complex product, but I'm just using fundraising as an aside to keep this conversation going. He brought on a comb of corn or maize to demonstrate the importance of taxation. Do you want to be taxed on one grain of corn, or do you want to be taxed on a whole barrel of corn and maize? That was an illustration that I love so much because it brought the issues closer to home. It made the issue a lot clearer to everybody. He also brought a series of books and laid them out on the table so that people could interact with his books and learn from them. So that was number 3. Number 4, the fourth way that I observed this phenomenal presenter use to persuade was to deal with anticipated objections. What is going on in the minds of your audience? What kinds of objections are they dealing with? What are they perceiving? What may they be thinking about? You need to anticipate those objections and deal with them one at a time. For example, I gotta go think about this. This one is super familiar in my business. My line of work, people often say, I'm gonna go think about it. I'm gonna go think about it. Sure, think about it. You got the right to think about it. But what if something happens in the meantime, in the interim? So, what other objections would your audience member be thinking about? What are they thinking about? And what are you going to do to deal or to reduce, to mitigate those objections? That is critical. Find a way to deal with those objections before they come to the surface. Because if you don't, they will use those objections to build a shield and impede you from taking on them on that journey to where you want them to come along with you, to learn something powerful, to test out that solution, or to contribute to that foundation that you're dealing with. So anticipate your objections and deal with them. The final piece that I learned from this gentleman was that for every presentation, however powerful it is, you need to find a way to give what they call emotional closes. So he delayed some of his stories towards the end. And I believe the reason he used that was because he used those stories which have emotional strings attached. Those stories were meant to tip us over the board, to get us to really stand up and understand the urgency of the issue that we're talking about. So the question I'm asking you is, do you have stories? Do you have emotional closes that you can use to help people to frame the issue? Not just frame the issue, but make an important commitment to whatever idea you want them to commit to. Emotional closes. He used his personal why. Why am I in this line of work, this line of business? He shared with us about an experience with his classmate. And then he shared with another experience from a friend. And then he shared yet another experience. So those three, bang, bang, bang. I bet you one of them touched some of the attendees in one way or the other. I was an observer. As an informed observer, I was kicking taps on what he was doing. But the last thing this is a bonus, I did not promise. He assumed the sale. And he assumed that everybody who came in there had a genuine interest. He did not ask them, can I take an appointment with you? He said, I will take an appointment with you. So that's point number 6. He reached out and said, I'd like to take an appointment with you so that I can sit down with you and share a little bit more about the concepts, about the implications, about the benefits of the product that I just talked about today with you. And he went from one person to the other. And all 6 of them who were still in the room, they made a commitment. That's a 100% success. All the 6 of them gave appointments. It wasn't wishy-washy. He assumed that if you were there, you sat through the presentation, you absolutely had an interest in learning something from him. And observed and mastered in action. Yes, I just summarized 5 ways that you can engage with your audience. You can present and persuade without coming across as pushy. Are you a teacher? Are you a preacher? Are you a speaker? Are you a coach? Are you a salesperson? Are you a mother? Are you a father? In short, all of us, we are in sales. Whether you like it or not, we are in some form of sales, one form or the other. And so I'm encouraging you to use these 5 ways to engage. And yes, there was one bonus. And if you want to continue to learn ideas like this that are captured and shared in a silly, in a little goofy, a little interactive, in a little whatever you call it, this is my style. If you're interested in some of this, I want to invite you to take part in my upcoming workshop on Wednesday. You would learn some other ways in which you can use your stories to frame an issue and get buy-in. That issue could just be, who wants to buy my Cheers button? I don't know what you're selling. Maybe you're selling my Cheers button. I don't know what you're selling. Maybe you're selling, that was easy. I don't know what, that was easy. I don't know what you're selling, but it could be just something as simple as get us people to sign on to a newsletter. Use stories to frame the issues. It could be a fundraiser. It could be, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you want your child to do something. Maybe you're teaching an idea. Maybe a concept from the Bible. I don't know what you're working on, but all I'm saying here is if you take the persona of a guide, someone who asks guiding questions, someone who utilizes logic, someone who provides illustrations, someone who deals with objections, who uses an emotional close, and above all, assume the sale by going out and saying, hey, I want you to join me on this journey. You'll be surprised. Some days you may hit 100%, like this multi-million gentleman that I saw in action on Friday. So I want to thank you. This is straight from the heart, the story warrior from the hinterlands of Africa, having a good time in the heartlands of America. So inviting you to check out a webinar on Wednesday. If that's of interest to you, express your interest here. Tell me right here, I want in. Or say, tell me more. Tell me more. And I'll be happy, I'll be honored. It'll be a privilege to share with you so you can come and check out my style. But I promise you, you will not go away empty-handed. Thank you. Peace to you. God bless you. Happy Sunday.